Sorry. Good morning. I'm Deb Stabita, a member of the Parish Committee. We're glad to have you either online here, either. Yeah, now I'm all flustered. I apologize. We're thrilled to have you here, whether you're online or in person, in this beautiful sanctuary on what is a gorgeous day compared to yesterday. A very special welcome to any visitors we might have. Our mission here is to build community, search for meaning, deepen our spirituality, and make a better world. To learn more about First Parish or Unitarian Universalism, please visit uwayland.org or contact Kate Holland, Director of Lifespan Education and Engagement. You can also reach out to anyone on the Parish Committee if you have, or Reverend Stephanie if you have questions or thoughts or anything else. A big thanks to all the service participants that are here. Everyone is listed in the order of service, so you can check that out there. And let's see, since yesterday, I guess, we're now back into medium with COVID, so masks are recommended. Yesterday we were at low, so I had a whole different thing written here, so I apologize for my confusion. Thank you. It's like, what hour is it? Well, we're medium. Nope, we're low. We're high. Oh. Anyway, please join me now in saying hello either to the camera and to your neighbors in the sanctuary. Thank you. Yeah, wave to everyone. Oh, perfect timing. Just sneak right through. Hi, yeah, came to say hi to me, Dan? Thank you. Yeah, it's good to see you. All righty. All right. And now we have a special announcement from David O'Leary and Luca. Take it away.
Good morning. We both tested negative this morning, so we're going to unmask if that's okay.
Hi, I'm Luca.
And I'm David.
We're friends because of First Parish.
We have known each other a long, long time.
We met when I was a little kid at Coffee Hour. You were having coffee.
And you were having snacks. So many snacks.
Why are we up here?
Well, we're here to explain what happens this time of year here at First Parish.
And what is that?
Well, it's stewardship time. This is the time of year when we take a look at everything that goes on here as First Parish, and we ask ourselves how we're going to support the church in making more of that kind of thing happen.
Is this a money thing?
Yeah, it is kind of a money thing. But it's not just a money thing, right? We do so much here at First Parish throughout the year. It's kind of a nice thing every once in a while to kind of look back on it all and kind of be proud of it.
Like what?
Well, we're hosting a lot of concerts these days with Arts Wayland. Music Sunday is coming up very, very soon. And when you guys go off to Seek in your classes, the Seek kids are collecting birthday party items for local food pantry.
Cool.
It is cool. Plus, there's a theme for this year's stewardship campaign. It's growing and celebrating. Some folks are planning celebration dinners with families and with music and lots more. That's going to be in a few weeks on Saturday, March 18th.
Back to the money. Where does it come from?
Well, it comes from all of us.
You mean the offering during church?
Actually, no. The offering that we collect, which we will in a little bit with the baskets here at church, it's a very important part, but it's really just a small part of the budget. Less than 1% of our budget comes from the offering that we collect every week at church. The pledges that we're talking about, that people make and families make during stewardship, that makes up the majority of our budget, like 75%.
Did everybody give?
I think so. I think most people give. Just about everybody gives what they can.
Does my mom give?
She does, yeah.
Do you give?
I do with my family.
How much are you giving?
I don't know yet. Like a lot of families, my wife Kathy and I are going to talk about it, and we're going to think about how much we love this place and all that First Parish means to us. And if we want First Parish to continue to grow and to make more of that good stuff happen, we'll give what we can.
How long have you been coming here?
Our son Sean is 30, so we've been coming, he's 31 actually this year, so it makes 31 years we've been coming here.
I started coming here when I was 2. You said the theme was growing?
Yes, growing, like growing our vision of what's possible.
If the church is growing, will I get taller?
I think you definitely will get taller.
Do you think someday I'll be standing up here like you?
Like me? I absolutely do. And I think that would be amazing for all of us. So this is the unofficial kickoff of our stewardship, annual stewardship campaign here at First Parish. And Luca and I are here to remind you and all of us how much this place means to all of us, day in and day out, and not just on Sundays from 10 to 11, throughout the year. So for the next few weeks, we'll all have a chance to celebrate all of that good work and how to plan to do more of it. We thank you in advance for making that possible with your support. Our service will now begin.
Today we gather as a Unitarian Universalist congregation committed to shared values and principles, including the principle of learning together. Throughout this year, we have been learning about encountering difference through world religions. Now in March, we turn our attention to Islam. Islam literally means to submit, specifically to submit to one God. A religion of action, Islam contains 5 pillars to guide the behavior of Muslims. You can learn more from the handout in the rear of the sanctuary or the link in the weekly e-blast. Islam is the second largest religion in the world, with nearly 2 billion adherents. Here in Wayland, we are fortunate to be neighbors to the Islamic Center of Boston in Wayland, just a mile up the road. In this hour and throughout this month, may we each commit ourselves to learning more about the Muslim faith so that we might be better neighbors in our religiously diverse and different world. I now invite the Cullen family to come forward in a practice of Unitarian Universalism, which is to light our chalice and to lead us in our covenant. We are a covenantal faith of promises made to each other rather than a creedal faith of beliefs we share.
Good morning. Please join us as we say together, with open minds and loving hearts, we gather to search for meaning, to care for one another, and to work together for a better world.
I see Charlie's headed our way. Thank you. I realized later it was around. We're on the same page. And as he makes his way forward, I'll just add this hymn, and maybe you were going to say this too, is written by Rumi, who was a Sufi poet. Sufism is the mystical tradition or arm within Islam.
Good morning. We've done this one before. It should be a piece of cake, all right? So what we'll do is we'll all sing it together from front to back, and then we'll start out. This group by the windows will start. This will come in next, third, and fourth. At the end, and then we'll sing it in parts twice all the way through until these people have sung it twice all the way through. You will finish before, and as usual for extra credit, you can sing the last line, repeat the last line until everybody's done, all right? So Polly, can you give us a little intro, please? 188.
Thank you, Charlie. Good job, everybody. Rounds aren't always our strength, but we're working on it. My name is Kate Holland. I am the Director of Lifespan Education and Engagement here. I use the pronouns she, her, and I have a story to share with you today. I thought since we were discussing Islam, I would start at the beginning. And so today I'd like to share with you the story of Muhammad, which many of you may know already. But not all of us probably do, so I thought I'd share it. So long ago, about 1,000 years before now, in what is now Saudi Arabia, there was a child born whose name was Muhammad. And during the time of Muhammad in that area, people believed in lots of different gods and goddesses, and there wasn't really kind of a good structure to tell you, like, should I give to the poor? Should I steal? There wasn't a lot of guidance in the beliefs that were there then. So Muhammad was born to a family, and sadly his parents both died before he was 5. So he went to live with his uncle who raised him, and he was a kind man. And even as a child, Muhammad seemed to be really kind and understanding. Even though he had been through such a hard life already, he just seemed to have an inherent kindness that was part of him. So as he grew up, because his family was not very wealthy, he needed to learn a trade. And so he learned to go into caravans and work the caravans. And so for those that don't understand or know what a caravan is, I think of it as the long-haul truckers of 1,000 years ago. So basically they would get camels and people, and they would take goods from one town to another through the desert. And so Muhammad was really good and honest in this job, and he was working for a woman who was widowed, who inherited the business from her husband. And they loved and they really respected each other and thought they were both really good people, and eventually they married. So their business thrived. And so as things got busier, Muhammad liked to take some time away from the city, away from the caravans, and sometimes he would take some food and go out to some caves that were just past the city, and he would meditate and find time to himself. One of the times he was there, he had fallen asleep, and he woke up to the sound of a voice in the cave, loudly saying, "Proclaim!" When he opened his eyes, he saw Gabriel, the angel. And Gabriel said to Muhammad, "You are going to proclaim for Allah, or God, the message of his religion. I am going to tell you what you should proclaim. You need to memorize it, and you need to tell people so they will understand the will of Allah." Muhammad's like, I can't read or write. I'm just kind of a guy that does a caravan thing. You have to be able to find somebody better than me. And the angel said, "No, it can only be you." So Muhammad went home and spoke to his wife and told him what had happened. And she said, "I really believe that this is what has happened to you. And if Allah is calling to you to tell his message, I think you really need to do this." And so he did. He gave up his work in the caravan, and he went into the streets, and he told the people, there is only one God, Allah, and one religion, which is Islam. You need to treat people who are less fortunate than yourself well and care for them. You need to pray 5 times a day so that your devotion to God is apparent. And you need to care for your families and be honest and open to them, and you need to make sure that there is no stealing and you lead a virtuous life. Well, people listened to this, and not surprisingly, after 30 years, only about 40 people had converted to Islam, which was probably a little underwhelming to Muhammad, but he kept going. And then after 10 years, there were hundreds of people who had converted to Islam. And in Mecca, where Muhammad lived, it was at that point that the people that were running the city noticed. And they said, did you know that we make an awful lot of money on people coming to visit our town to worship all those other gods and goddesses that he's telling people don't really exist? And they were like, I think maybe it's time for us to get rid of Muhammad. So in that same time period, some people from the city of Medina, which was about 200 miles away from Mecca, their city was in really serious trouble. And they had heard that Muhammad was a wise man. So they came to Mecca to see him, and they asked him, will you come to our city and help us? And he said, well, I'm willing to do that, but everyone in the city needs to convert to Islam. So he moved to Medina and he led the city. And not surprisingly, the number of people who became Muslim, who believed in Islam, went up dramatically. And by the time that Muhammad had died, most of the entire area of Saudi Arabia had converted to Islam. And like Reverend Stephanie said, there is about 1/4 of the population who follow the religion of Islam. So there's our start, and I'm excited to explore Islam with all of us this month together. So I'm going to ask all of us to raise our voices in song again as our friends leave for our seat classes.
As Dan comes up for the reading, I just want to add this song that the choir just sung emerged from the efforts of a Muslim, Samir Badri. Following the events of 9/11, Badri participated in a peace rally alongside Ted Warmbrand, a Jewish composer. Badri asked Warmbrand to put the words of peace he had shared to the rally to music. And that is how that song came to be and how it's in our hymnal. And the lyrics are in the hymnal, the Teal hymnal, I think it's 1032, and it speaks to peace. Thank you.
Our reading today is a poem by Wendell Berry entitled The Law That Marries All Things. It uses imagery of nature to explore the theme of submission. The cloud is free only to go with the wind. The rain is free only in falling. The water is free only in its gathering together, in its downward courses, in its rising into the air. In law is rest if you love the law, if you enter singing into it, as water in its descent. Or song is truest law, and you must enter singing. It has no other entrance. It is the great chorus of parts. The only outlawry is in division. Whatever is singing is found, awaiting the return of whatever is lost. Meet us in the air over the water, sing the swallows. Meet me, the red bird sings. Here, 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 here.
As we prepare now for a time of prayer and meditation, I invite you to remain seated as we sing hymn 123, Spirit of Life. It's a tune that is sung across Unitarian Universalist congregations frequently, a lot of times in this place before a prayer. So our voices join within a larger tradition.
My name is Alyssa Lee. I'm the ministerial intern here at First Parish, and my pronouns are she or they. Let's take a deep breath in and out. And another deep breath in and out. Spirit of love and connection, as we spend time today exploring that for many people, the act of faithful submission can bring deeper meaning and peace to their lives. We may be left wondering, is there something in our lives we need to submit to? Have we been ignoring a call either from the universe or within ourselves? Was there a choice we should have made but did not make? Something left unspoken, perhaps. Or something not done that should have been done. May we find our way to the choice we know is right, deep within us. Identify what may be standing between us and peace. May we be kind to ourselves while we navigate what we should do, even though sometimes we do not. And may we have the strength to follow the call, to submit to what we know we should, though we may be weary or wary. let us rest in the knowledge that we will ultimately know peace if we trust ourselves and the inner voice inside, especially if we listen to it kindly and with patience. Amen. Now please join me in a moment of stillness, a time to pause, and in the silence, an opportunity to let that inner voice speak to us and hopefully be heard.
I'm Debbie Levens, a lay minister for this congregation. This is a time in our service that we set aside to share our joys and our sorrows. In both the sharing and the support given by our witness, we affirm our covenant to care for one another. To begin, I will light a candle of sorrow for the anti-trans legislation being passed throughout our country. People of all ages are being denied important gender-affirming medical care. We join in solidarity with the UU congregations throughout our country, fighting for the rights of those within their congregation and their community. I will also light a candle of joy to recognize those who will be celebrating Holi and Purim this week. Both holidays, although very different, remind us of the importance of standing up to injustice and that in the end, good will triumph. If you wish to share, please add your joy and sorrow to the chat now. Or to share in person, please come forward. As a reminder, you may always submit your joy and sorrow in writing using the slips at each door. And these joys and sorrows are not part of the recording, the service recording.
Thank you, Debbie. I don't know what I could say that'd be better than what David and Lucas said this morning about supporting the work of this congregation. One thing that I really enjoyed was just seeing the sort of intergenerational relationship between the two of them. And then hearing everybody talk today, again, I'm struck by the depth of relationship that so many people here have. And I mean, I've only been here for about a year and a half, and I already feel it. I have such affection for all of you, and I feel the same. I hope I feel it in return, often coming back towards me. So, I think it's such a special place belonging to a congregation, because you do get to build these relationships people all ages, different backgrounds, different parts of the country. And so I think that's such a gift. And when you support First Parish, you're supporting a place where we can deepen these relationships with one another. If you are here in person, you can donate by providing an offering in one of the boxes that's being passed around. You can also donate online. There's an orange card in your pew that gives you additional information. But you can go to uuwayland.org/donate. And the offering will now be gratefully received. Thank you.
When I learned that the Arabic word Islam means to submit, I knew I was in trouble. I mean, how well will a sermon about submission go over in a Unitarian congregation? As a religious tradition with a long history of insisting on freedom of conscience, submission can seem like a hard sell to UUs. And yet here we are. Submitting to God, or Allah in Arabic, is central to Islam. Of the 5 pillars that characterize Islam, The first is the Shahada, or the profession of faith, which states, I bear witness that there is no God but God, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. Understood as more than mere words, declaring one's faith in this way means submitting to the presence and reality of God as revealed to Muhammad and recorded in the Quran. Submission does not stop there. Through its 5 pillars, Islam is a religion of actions that guide the behavior of Muslims in significant ways, daily, annually, and over a lifetime. Daily, Muslims are expected to pray 5 times. Annually, Muslims are required to give away a percentage of their wealth to the poor and to fast during daylight hours for the month of Ramadan. Notably, for both fasting and almsgiving, there are conscientious exceptions for those who might suffer significant hardship or lack the capacity to meet these requirements. A similar thoughtful exception is found in the 5th pillar, which requires all Muslims to make a pilgrimage to Mecca once in their lifetime, if it is within their means. In these 5 ways, to be Muslim is to not only hold certain beliefs, but to also live out particular actions. But why submit to these requirements of action, to these beliefs? For many, they submit because simply they believe they are true. We may disagree. We may not believe in God. We may not believe that the Quran, the sacred book of Islam, is in fact the direct revelation of God to guide our actions. But in our shared world, nearly 2 billion people believe or are shaped by this Islamic tradition. This is our reality. To encounter difference means discovering how to be in relationship with those whom believe and live differently than we do. Sometimes encountering difference challenges us to consider new ideas and perspective that just might widen or deepen our own understanding of self and others. And so today I want to explore the idea of submission for lessons that even we, freedom-loving UUs, might appreciate. I'm certainly not immune to a certain hesitation to the idea of submission. My grandmother used to love to tell a story about me when I was 4. Apparently, when I was in the hospital after having my appendix removed, I refused her help when I had to use the bathroom. I do it myself, I defiantly told her. I took pride in being able to act independently, then and often now. Perhaps you do as well. Asking for help, being dependent, or submitting to the direction of another have all been a bit of a struggle for me at times. Later, in my 20s, a poem by Wendell Berry helped me to rethink submission. As Dan read for us earlier, Berry writes, "The cloud is free only to go with the wind. The rain is free only in falling." These lines have stayed with me for years. They point to a different approach to freedom, where freedom comes not by the absence of restraint, but rather by surrendering to the law governing its existence. Berry continues, "And law is rest, if you love the law, if you enter singing into it as water in its descent." Perhaps sometimes we might find more freedom by going with the flow, as the aphorism counsels. Perhaps sometimes, accepting the limits imposed upon us by the nature of things, releases us from trying to do what is in fact not possible to do. Maybe sometimes submitting to the limits of a situation is freeing. But accepting one's limits can also be rather challenging, right? Over the last 4 weeks of struggling with COVID and then its lingering impact, I have become deeply reacquainted with this notion of respecting my limits. On most days, I've had clear mental function for the first half of the day before needing a nap. Overall, I have been unable to mentally or physically do as much as I am accustomed to doing. I know this is not a foreign experience to most of us. Most, if not all of us, have faced limits in what we are able to do. Perhaps an illness or an injury shifts our abilities, or the loss of someone dear to us brings a grief that weighs down our thinking and our doing. Maybe we've simply never been able to run as fast, read as quickly, or draw as well as we would like to be able to do. Or we've never been able to be quite as optimistic or trusting or relaxed as others seem to be. We all live within the limits of our unique capacities, our particular histories, and our specific contexts. Not to mention that we all live within the physical demands of gravity, as well as the need for food, water, oxygen. We too are like the wind and the rain, interwoven with the cycles of life. And yet knowing any of this does not change the fact that sometimes our restlessness declares it should be different in a spirit of resistance. Yes, sometimes things could be different. Sometimes change is possible. We can pass a law removing hurdles to voting for formerly enslaved persons or for women. We can leave an abusive relationship or a bad job. We can seek out a religious community that better aligns with our spiritual journey. But are there not also times when we cannot change the reality of what is? Are there not situations and experiences that we must simply accept for what they are? You may be familiar with the Serenity Prayer widely used in 12-step programs. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Knowing that difference between what we can and cannot change is not easy. Discerning this difference is, I agree, often a matter of wisdom, but I think it is also a matter of belief. Religious beliefs of many different kinds often determine our sense of what is and is not changeable. Whether we believe in a creator God who has shaped the world in a certain way, or in a cosmic system of karma and samsara, our religious framework about the ultimate nature of the universe can shape our discernment of what we can change and what we must accept. In other words, our religious beliefs shape our sense of what is ultimately real and true about the nature of things. And so I ask you, as a group of Unitarian Universalists, what do you believe is and is not changeable in the world, in your world? How do you discern the difference? When do you muster courage and conviction to make a change? And when do you accept or submit to the reality of what you cannot change? In the Serenity Prayer, the petitioner asks for serenity to be able to accept what they cannot change. But could it be that serenity, or a sense of peace, can emerge from accepting your limits? Can surrendering to what is actually help us to find peace? The relationship between peace and submission is part of discussions in Islam as well. Many note that the word Islam shares the root word salaam with the Arabic word for peace, salaam. While it may not be a simple equivocation that Islam means peace, this shared cognate is suggestive to some that peace is found through submission. In other words, one finds peace through submission to God. Peace comes by submitting to the rule and ruler of the universe. I hear in this the echo of Barry's notion of the freedom found in surrendering to the law, and the rain freely falling as it must, because that is the nature of rain. Perhaps our understanding of God is not the same as that of a Muslim or of the Quran, but I believe that we all have some notion of the ultimate reality of the way things are, whether or not we call this God. In this way, submitting to God, or to the ultimate reality as we understand it, may be a path to finding peace for all of us. Perhaps when we surrender to the reality of what we cannot change, to the reality of our limits, we might find peace in being within the world as it is here and now. And yes, it's a world where so much should and even could be better. But we also have to discern what we cannot change. Not long after I first read Wendell Berry's poem, I married and started a family. Young and full of hope, I was initially optimistic that the conflicts and unhappiness I felt in my marriage just needed work and attention. Only after several years of deep pain did I accept that I could not change or fix my husband to become what felt loving and safe to myself and my son. Choosing to divorce was incredibly hard for many reasons, but the reality was that divorce was the better path. In the end, submitting to that hard reality was freeing, and it did bring peace, as I have gone on to experience happier and more loving relationships. I'm not sure if Wendell Berry was in my mind through that discernment process, but I do know that many threads, including Berry, contributed to my growing spiritual awareness that the world was bigger than me. I needed help to restart my life, which friends, family, and my church helped me to do. Maybe sometimes we don't have to, nor can we, do it by myself, as my 4-year-old self insisted. Maybe sometimes we are at our limits of what we can do, and we need help. Maybe we need to submit to the reality of what is to find peace. While I am certain that Islam and the meaning of submission in Islam is far more than I have been able to explore here, my hope for all of us is that we consider the lessons we might glean from our Muslim friends about the meaning of submission. For example, while the 5 pillars guide Muslim behavior, there are also thoughtful accommodations for the reality that people have varying circumstances and capacities. In this way, the requirements adapt to the reality of life. Submission need not be understood only as a rigid, mindless abdication. Submission may also be a path to spiritual freedom and to finding peace as well. So may it be. Amen. Our closing hymn is number 1054, Let This Be a House of Peace, and that's in the teal hymnal. We'll work on that one. Great lyrics, though, right? If you noticed, I had bracelets, anti-racism bracelets that are being sold to support anti-racism curriculum in the middle school, I believe. And Jada and Luca, who we all met today, will be in coffee hour if you'd like to buy some of those. Sustained by our connections to each other and to all that is holy, let us go and be beyond these walls, bringing more light and life, love, justice, and peace to our shared world. Amen.